Media pioneer, cultural icon, and founder of the legendary Video Music Box. Ralph McDaniels will be celebrating his birthday with a special party concert event. Ralph McDaniels and Friends on February 26th at Brooklyn Bowl. The highly anticipated evening will unite music, culture, celebration, featuring live performances from artists whose work helped define hip hop and dance music history. The night is presented by Elijah Wells's Late Development. Known to most as Uncle Ralph, Ralph McDaniels joins us. Great to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you, Doug.
We're looking forward to this event for you, a birthday celebration. There's a number of artists who are special to you who will be performing. You want to run those down for us?
Yeah, sure. MOP, which is out of Brooklyn, a group that came out in the early 90s, where I played them on my show, Video Music Box. And they were really an underground group, but they're considered like your favorite rapper's rap group. You know, they're hardcore, they haven't changed too much, but they're very celebrated. And I'm always happy to have MOP in the building because they represent the early days of hip hop, well, the early 90s, let's put it that way. And EPMD, Parrish Smith will be there. Also, what I call blue collar hip hop, just consistent all along. They never really changed for the money. They did it because of the love of the art, and they had something to say. And they're from Long Island, New York, which some people forget had a big hip hop scene with groups like Rakim, and of course Public Enemy. Havoc from the group Mobb Deep. Havoc is the living member of Mobb Deep. Prodigy passed away a few years ago, and they're all, like I say, blue collar hip hop. So if you enjoy the early days of hip hop and the early days of dance music, this is the party for you. And there's not a lot of places for this because hip hop has changed so much, or what they call hip hop. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Did you have any idea back then that it would explode the way it has? And all you have to do is look at the Grammys, right? And hip hop is prevalent. You look at the Super Bowls, hip hop is prevalent.
Yeah.
Did you think it would ever become this big?
No, didn't see it. Didn't see it at all. It was something that we did for fun. And we didn't think that it would, ever even get played on the radio at all, because there was no radio stations for hip hop in the early days. Now you have 24-hour radio stations, streaming networks, like you said, all of these accolades that, hip hop is part of, but we didn't see it at all. But it became a cultural phenomenon amongst young people, and usually new genres come from a young audience. And I think that the hip hop kids, no matter if you were from New York or you were from Atlanta, Georgia, they had something to say and they wanted to get it off their chest. And hip hop provided an opportunity for that.
I went back and watched Nas's video, that your first one that you produced for him. It was really well done. I mean, it holds up in today's world, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what's funny, Doug, is that videos back then in the 90s, early 90s, were shot in film. So we shot those videos in 16 35 millimeter film. And film is it's one of my favorite, tools to work with because it's different than digital. It's a little bit, it's like audio. Some people say, oh, I love the sound of vinyl, and then I don't like the MP3. I don't like the digital sound. And to me, it's like that. I love the sound of the warm feel of the film and being able to manipulate it in different ways. But, first of all, digital is way least less expensive and faster to work with. So I get it.
You can go on YouTube right now and see It Ain't Hard to Tell, and some of the work that Nas has done with you. It was back in the 90s that happened. But let's go way back before that. In 1983 at NYC, so you're part of the public media landscape. You became a radio engineer and then created Studio 31 Dance Party, the show that eventually would transform into Video Music Box. Take us back to that time.
Early days of media. NYC TV was a affiliate of PBS. Channel 13 in New York was the primary station, and then you had a couple of offset channels like Channel 13, Channel 21, Channel 25. And and we basically on that channel before my show came on played, repeats of what Channel 13 had already played. And so, I was like, I should come up with something, that's cool, And one day these tapes came in and it had some R&B, dance music videos. Well, they weren't even music videos. They were just performances of artists. Artists like, and some of your audience may know them, like Rick James, Lionel Richie, Shalimar.
Yeah,
Um,
just we might recognize these names.
but 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 the thing is, I never saw these videos on TV. I never saw these things. And I was like, wow, maybe we can make a show out of this. And they were primarily sent to us just as a promo to just let you see what the artist looked like performing. Because prior to that, you had to go to a concert to see the artist. And or you saw them in magazines. And so we were like, all right, let's see if we can put something together. I put a half an hour video together. The station thought it was interesting. They waited about 6 months. They came back to me and they said, we're going to use it in a fundraiser. So people who know fundraisers were the big thing back in the days, on air telethons, right? And they played the videos that I selected and people started giving money like immediately. And I was like, why? Like, why are they giving money? But the station loved that. And
You
so they
bet
said,
they
okay.
did. You bet they did.
Right. And the station said, can you do this every day at 3:30 after school? And that's how Video Music Box started.
Wow. And more than 4 decades
Yes.
later, as you were doing that, you got the sense of this hip hop nation that would develop, and you talked about how it's changed dramatically. Has it changed for the better?
I think that it's good for young people to have access to something that prior to, I don't know, the 90s, well, probably the 2000s, they didn't have any access to record companies and, big concerts and things like that unless they paid for it just as a patron. Um, so well, it's more technology has given them the access. And of course, the internet and all of these different things that now you used to have to go to a big studio to record. You can do it now on your laptop, or you can do it even on your phone, you know. And so that's a good thing, right? So you get kids that are creative. The only thing that you just don't have professionals, like that no sound or that no video. So you have young people kind of trying it out, and it's so you got to weed through all of that and then get to the good stuff. And sometimes, it's tough, especially on the ears of, guys like me who have been around since the early 80s, who remember, how these things were recorded and it's a culture. There's a whole other part of it. Like there's hip hop is a culture. It's the rap, it's the DJ, it's the break dancers and the artists, the graffiti artists. And that's what incorporated what hip hop was all about. And sometimes people just think about the rap part because that's the part that makes money. And they just going for that. So we did things for free for a long time, because we just enjoyed it, and we wanted to develop the culture. Now, these kids nowadays, they want to get the money immediately, and that's it.
When I was watching Nas's video, I just went, how young he looks, right?
Yeah.
To remind us, who out there now that's, whether they're making lots of money or not, who out there now says, that's my kind of hip hop artist? Who is it for you?
Wow. I still think that Drake is still relevant. Drake, caught a lot of heat last year, and people were giving him a hard time. But he started in a time when lyrics weren't really happening anymore. It was kind of like that. We're going to make money music, and Drake was rapping about something, a song. He had a real song, And I think that his generation enjoyed hearing songs. And that's when he became who he is, one of the biggest selling hip hop artists of all time. And he's still relevant. I think he's still important. Um, and he has to if he continues to want to make music, he has to adapt to what's going on right now. And he's pretty much doing that. So I still believe that Drake is important, and people go like, "Oh, Ralph, that's a sellout." It doesn't matter because he stuck to the script when he started, and I remember when he first started. But and there are others, there are other artists that are out there. Tyler, the Creator, amazing artist, does some amazing music, and many others that may not get radio play, but are through the technology that exists through YouTube and all these other streaming networks. Folks all over the world have access to them.
Who keeps in touch with Ralph McDaniels that maybe surprises you that they've kept in touch with you?
Well, anytime, I'm on WBGO, which, primarily to me is a jazz station, you know, folks get excited, and I get people calling me. And so it's not like I didn't think that existed. I just didn't know how wide it was. Because jazz and hip hop in a way are similar, They're these niche kind of sounds, and they started in juke joints, and that's the way hip hop started in these back rooms and stuff. And so it's similar, and some people might not see that, but I see that. And so I think that there's a correlation between the two.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists who have sampled jazz musicians through the years. And I think it's important that especially our younger audience knows that hip hop and jazz are deeply connected in many areas.
Yes. Yeah. In my documentary, you're watching Video Music Box, which is still on Showtime. There's a segment where I play Dizzy Gillespie, and I did an interview with Dizzy Gillespie, and I'm playing it for Nas to see it. And Dizzy basically says what I just said. The beginnings of jazz and the beginnings of hip hop are the same. Quincy Jones said the same thing, you know, and uh people were, oh wow, when did you get Dizzy Gillespie? And I was like, I was at an event and he was there, and I walked up to him and he started talking to me. But that's hip hop, those kind of moments, that artists make themselves available to, the right things that they want to talk about.
You mentioned Showtime premiered that documentary. You're watching Video Music Box, and it certainly chronicled the longest running music video show, your show, with never before seen footage from your vault. It was a very successful doc, and people still refer to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's done very well. We've even talked about visiting some other things that we didn't get a chance to put in the first doc. We were coming out of the pandemic when we shot that. It was, tough scheduling for these big networks, and they were like, okay, this is the date. You got to put it out now, because if you don't put it out now, it might not be a year from now because we're so backed up with productions. And I felt like we were rushed, and they didn't know, but when it came on air, they knew that it was something special. And like I said, it still continues to play, and people reference it in articles and in different interviews.
Can you even pick out a special moment, the moment for Video Music Box that someone said, okay, what episode or what time period or what artist defines Video Music Box?
Well, I think for me, I was at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. That was back in the days. Most of the things that were going on there were the New York Nets played there with Dr. J and Rick Barry back in the days.
Wow.
And
Two of the greats of all time.
yeah. And so there was a concert in 1985 at the Nassau Coliseum. It was called the Fresh Fest. And it featured Run DMC, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Houdini, the Fat Boys, and a young LL Cool J. And um, and we went to the concert, and we taped the whole entire concert on with one camera from front stage to backstage. But the thing that was interesting to me was it was literally the most diverse concert I ever saw, and the audience was the most diverse audience that I ever saw at a concert before. It was white kids, black kids, Asian kids, Latino kids, whoever, all there wearing the same kind of clothes, knew all the lyrics. And I said to myself, this is bigger than, Hollis, Queens, where I lived at the time, and it was bigger than, the South Bronx where hip hop started. This has become a multicultural thing, and it's just for young people. If you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, you're not. And I realized that it was going somewhere that I didn't see prior to that.
You bring up Rick Barry. I'm show you how old I am. I was doing some public address announcing and some broadcasting of the USBL games where Rick Barry was coaching the Jersey Shore Cats in
Oh, wow.
Asbury Park at the convention center. And who was the opposing coach? Chocolate Thunder, Daryl Dawkins, right? So two wonderful performers, and they both had their own personalities and were fun to deal with. Especially Daryl Dawkins was great. But hip hop in the NBA is certainly long connected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Um, if you go to Madison Square Garden, you see the Knicks, it's a rap song. Go New York, go New York, go. You know. And it's always been part of it. I think that, for young kids for years before I got into this, from the 70s to the 60s probably, music and basketball was a way out. And so hip hop, many of the rap artists, I mean, many of the hip hop, the NBA players want to be hip hop artists as well, and some are right, some are okay, but most of them are not that good.
You mentioned Dizzy Gillespie earlier.
Yes,
If you could go back in time and match up a hip hop artist with a legend. You
yeah,
talked about Nas, and you were talking to him, about Dizzy. Who would be the two people that you would most want to put together and say, this is a Ralph McDaniels production?
yeah. Miles Davis and Nas.
That would be
Um,
interesting, right?
yeah, yeah,
Would
because
Miles turn his back to us during the video
he
or
might, he might, he might, you never know. But I feel like, Nas is always, looking forward, and that's how Miles was. He was always a forward-thinking person. And and sometimes that's hard because people want what you did 3 years ago, and they want the same thing. And Nas, people always reference Nas's first album, Illmatic. And he's like, that was like 30 years ago. I'm not the same person anymore. So he's always moving forward, um, and trying different things. And I think that's the way Miles was.
I always pause and think of whether it be jazz, hip hop, whether it be pop, or who is that artist out there that will truly survive the test of time. And when we talk about Miles and John Coltrane and we talk about Louis Armstrong, their music can play in any era.
Yeah.
And I just wonder as we hear some of these pop stars during the Grammy Awards, who's going to last? Who's going to be the person 50 years from now that we say, oh yes, that's a Frank Sinatra on a vocal, or that's a John Coltrane on the saxophone. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would probably say LL Cool J because he's considered the greatest of all time, and meaning from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s into now. And he's had music out in all of those eras, and they've charted, which is not an easy task, no matter how much money you have. Um, so I would say LL Cool J. I'm a big Run DMC fan. I think the guitars, having the balls to put the guitars in their music in the early 80s, was, ingenious, and that's why they'll last the test of time.
On the 26th of February. What will be going through your mind as you celebrate your birthday, which will actually be on the 27th,
Yeah.
but you're celebrating a day early? What kind of thoughts? Are you going to go back to the early days when you see all these people, or is it going to be, something different for you?
Yeah, no, it's always the birthday is a time when I bring everybody together. And now we're 60, 50, we don't go out as much as we used to when we were 20 years old. So the people look forward to my party because it's an opportunity for, oh, okay, I know what I'm going to get. I know what Ralph is going to do. I know he's going to have some special guests. I know it's going to be some music that I love. And we start at, 6 o'clock and we end at 12 and we go home and we sit on the couch.
There's going to be some conversation going on that night as well, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have special guests, not just hip hop artists. There are people that I know, so many people. I've done films. I did the film. My first movie I did was Juice, starring Tupac Shakur. Um, and people that I met during the Juice times in 1992 when we shot that. That's a classic hip hop film, Juice. And then I did Roxanne for with Netflix, and that's um some amazing folks in that, Oscar winners. So there are folks that come out, because it's me, and they're like, oh, let's go hang out with Ralph, and it's a good opportunity. And just all the people that have watched Video Music Box over the years, a good friend that I didn't know him at first, but I met was Willie Geist. Willie Geist is on CNBC. Well, he's on NBC now. And Willie Geist is the biggest Video Music Box fan in the world. He used to get in contact with me. I never met him. When I saw the word Willie, I thought he was a black guy. And and then he had a show on Sirius satellite radio. And Willie said he wanted me to be his first guest because it wasn't for me, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. And when I
Mhm.
met him, I'm like, "You're Willie Geist?" And he's like 6'5", look like Tom Brady kind of guy, and he's the biggest hip hop fan in the world. And you would never know that if you watch his shows. He does reference it when he used to be on the morning Joe. And but Willie Geist is a big fan. So you never know who's watching, who's listening. You just try to do your best and present the music, which is what people really want in the most elegant way.
Have you ever had time to just step back? I mean, some of the people that you have talked about, Tupac Shakur, I mean, a legend, right? A
Yeah.
legend in this music. And there you were, involved in that project.
Yeah.
At 11-year-old who moved from Brooklyn to Queens, it has to make you just think, hey, things went pretty well for Ralph McDaniels.
Yeah, no, I
And,
mean,
and you're still going strong, so I'm not saying it's over.
still going, and I still enjoy it. I try to, cut the clutter out of the way and get right to it, and so I can really enjoy it. But this is something that I could never have imagined. I went to college for TV and film. I directly went into the business. Maybe one other person that I graduated with did that, and I still know them, and you know, who knew? I just think it was more than just knowledge of it. It was a passion that I had for it, and wanting to. It started out DJing in the block parties. That's what I did first, and I knew that I played good records and people liked them. And I said, okay, I'm just doing the same thing, just on a bigger platform right now.
Can you sing?
No, I can't sing.
We found one thing that Ralph McDaniels can't do.
I might
Why?
think I
Why?
can sing, but I can't sing. No.
With all those people that you were surrounded with, it never got any better.
My brother said I should have been a producer of music. And, I was like, oh, that's a lot of work. And I was like, no, I'll pass on that. But I directed a lot of videos and, and produced a lot of films and movies.
Well, the career keeps on going, but congratulations on all your success. And coming up will be a birthday celebration that a lot of people are, as you mentioned, looking forward to. It's Ralph McDaniels and Friends. Uncle Ralph. February 26th at Brooklyn Bowl. How can people get to be at the event?
Yeah, just go to brooklynbowl.com right now, brooklynbowl.com, and you search Ralph McDaniels and it'll come up and you can get your tickets right now. It's always a great event. It's always fun. It's safe. We have a lovely time. People, beautiful people enjoying themselves, all like-minded people that, just love the music. Yeah.
Yeah, if you love hip hop and you love seeing the videos of today, you better thank Ralph McDaniels for Video Music Box. It probably never would have happened without him. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Doug.